I'm Chris Hassel with breaking news from the NFL. The Cleveland Browns shipping Duke Johnson to the Texans for a undisclosed pick, according to the Browns. Now, Cleveland has announced this officially as a trade. There are reports that it is a 2020 conditional fourth-round pick that the Browns are getting in return from the Texans. Bunch of different ways to break this down. Danny Cannell and Jamie Eisenberg are here to do just that. Danny, let's start with you from a Cleveland perspective. Freddie Kitchens said we have a plan for Duke Johnson. Baker Mayfield said if you're not on the train, you're going to get run over by it. Clearly, the plan all along was to try to get him out of town. How does this help the locker room?
I think this is great. I mean, it's become a distraction of sorts when Baker Mayfield's having to answer his question. I liked his mindset. I just wish he would have kept it to himself. But clearly, that's an attitude that's pervasive in a locker room. When you have a guy who wants out, you're like, well, let's hope that he gets out. So I think this is a win-win situation for all parties that are involved. Duke Johnson wasn't happy. He wanted out. The Browns signing Kareem Hunt. They've got a lot more depth at the running back position. Clearly wasn't a huge part of their plans. So are they able to move him? You know, if it's this fourth-round conditional pick, that seems to me like a relatively fair value. I don't think it's like they got, absolutely handled in this deal. So I think it's one where it makes sense for all parties.
Well, here's the issue, though. Nick Chubb might see a lot more carries now because Kareem Hunt is suspended for the first 8 games of the season. He can play in the preseason, but not the regular season. And here comes Dontrell Hilliard's name popping up on the screen. He's now the backup.
For now. I mean, there are going to be some guys that are going to get let go. Kenneth Dixon's one that comes to mind. I don't think they'll be able to work out a deal with the Bengals, but the Bengals are now loaded with their running back depth. Giovanni Bernard is somebody that they can maybe move on from just because they want to get rid of the money there. But there are going to be some guys, I think, that they look at to find somebody else. But if you just look at what this is for them right now, this is fantastic for Nick Chubb. I mean, we were talking about him, late second-round pick. If you want to get off to a great start for the first 8 games, we don't know what's going to happen when Kareem Hunt comes back. But for right now, Nick Chubb is a potential monster for what he could do in the passing game without Duke Johnson.
Danny, are you at all concerned? I mean, if they're unable to make a move for a legitimate backup, are you concerned that they're going to be relying on this really young player to carry the load the first half of the season?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big workload for somebody to carry that's so young in their career. And somebody who had the luxury of splitting carries even when he was in college with Sony Michel and Nick Chubb doing it together. But he is a workhorse. He is a physical back that can handle the grind. We saw him do it at Georgia in the SEC. But it is just a lot of expectations to put on somebody. And you pair that with a very, I know Baker Mayfield had an outstanding year, and you've got these incredible weapons on the outside. But that presents a lot of opportunity in the run game because defenses are going to be aligned specifically for pass defense because those are your biggest threats. So that opens up the door for whoever's carrying the football for opportunities. You want somebody in there you can trust. And I think there's got to be a clear sign of this is a confidence boost for Nick Chubb that the staff believes, hey, we can take this chance. But I'm with Jamie. I think they absolutely bring in somebody. And again, it kind of speaks to the value or the devaluation of the running back position. They're like, yeah, we'll go ahead, we'll sign somebody. We don't know who it is yet. But they'll bring in somebody that they feel can just be that spot on the depth chart.
And Duke Johnson gets his way as well. He wanted out. He gets out, and he's going to the Houston Texans, who they just released Deontay Foreman early on in the week. So he looks to be the clear backup there. Is there any chance that he takes any carries away from Lamar Miller?
Oh, for sure. Lamar Miller's been very serviceable, but he hasn't exactly blown the doors off of what the Texans, I think, want to do in their run game. And you've heard Bill O'Brien all offseason say they want to involve their backs more in the passing game. Well, that's what Duke Johnson does better than he does running between the tackles, is based on what we've seen so far in the NFL. So it's going to be a good compliment. I think Duke Johnson has an opportunity here to help fantasy owners because of what he could do as a pass catcher. And look, Will Fuller, hard time staying healthy. Kiki QT, 6 games last year. Once you get past DeAndre Hopkins, there isn't a lot of certainty. As much as the upside is there for Fuller and QT, Duke Johnson could have a pretty good role. And so I think this is a good situation for him going to a team that was really, really deprived of depth behind Lamar Miller, and we'll see how Lamar Miller handles this.
Yeah, their offensive line was atrocious. We saw Deshaun Watson on his back a lot last year, dealing with injuries, getting hit a lot. One of the things you can do to help that is run the football, adding a little bit of depth, getting Duke Johnson in there. I love the mindset of getting a player who's ticked off, right? He's mad. He wanted out of Cleveland. He wants to prove them wrong. Sometimes that little bit of motivation can go a long way. Get a guy on a prove-it opportunity, and I think that's what he's going to want to do. He's going to want to silence a lot of his critics, but also the Texans as a whole, They have to do a better job protecting Deshaun Watson. He can't be carrying the majority of the offense on his back, whether it's passing the ball or, even worse, running the football, which he's been known to do early in his career as well.
Danny, what are your thoughts on what the Browns are reportedly getting in return? A conditional 4th-round pick that could turn into a 3rd-round pick for a backup running back.
Well, I mean, look at some of the guys we're talking about in this bigger picture. Kareem Hunt, I know he's going to be suspended, but 3rd-round pick. Like, that's a place where you could see some value at the running back position specifically, and then you get that, and you can find a value of other players. It's not like it's a 6th or 7th round throwaway pick. 4th round that could become a 3rd round pick. You can find some really good value players at that spot in the draft.
Okay, well, both teams play tonight. The Texans are taking on the Packers. The Browns host the Redskins. There are 11 preseason games tonight, but the news this afternoon, Duke Johnson traded away from the Cleveland Browns to the Houston Texans.